Do these emails show that Donald Trump Jr. released a direct link to Moscow influencing our 2016 election? And was it even appropriate for them to have this meeting in the first place?
You know, really, as we look at this, I'm not on a committee of jurisdiction. I'm like you. I get to read the emails and see it secondhand. But when we look at this, it's all about making sure that we have a special prosecutor, which we do with Mueller, to look at this in depth. Obviously, any time that you have emails going back and forth, it's going to tell one story. You know, the broader story may be very different. But I can say this, is interference in elections, whether it be Russians or the Chinese or anybody else, is inappropriate. And so we've got to get to the bottom of that. As we see these emails today, you know, the only good news is that the attorney that came said that, you know, she has no connection with the Russian government. But as you read it, certainly as they start to look at this deeper, I think it's important for us to get to the bottom of it. And I, for one, have been calling for that for a long time. So I think we'll see that.
Senator Marco Rubio was asked by reporters today about this. He said this is Mueller territory. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think it is. I mean, anytime that you have special counsel, it obviously moves to that. There are a number of other committees of jurisdiction that certainly will want to look into this. But in the context of it, you know, we're talking about collusion here, and there's a big difference between having activity and colluding. And when we see this, you know, when I read the emails, I looked at it more in a function of, well, what was Hillary doing with Russians? There's long been rumored her and Podesta have had interactions there. So hopefully he can get to the bottom of that, not just for the Trumps, but for the Clintons or anybody else.
Congressman, let me respectfully press you on this. The
Sure.
Senate nearly unanimously passed a sanctions bill on Russia as a result of the U.S. intelligence community's reports on this. Now this sanctions bill is in limbo in the House of Representatives. That has to frustrate you.
Well, I think the frustration is trying to make sure that we target those sanctions, and with the overwhelming vote that we saw in the Senate, I think you'll see an overwhelming vote here on the House floor in the coming days.
Days.
You know, yeah, I think days. You know, really, obviously, it's not going to be an amendment to the NDAA, but I knew that I am on the Foreign Affairs Committee. I know Chairman Royce is working very diligently. We are working to look at some amendments that may be added to that.
So that it doesn't hurt U.S. businesses?
Well, you know, you've got U.S. businesses that are a concern, but in the interest of our national sovereignty and national security, those trump any business interests. But I want to make sure that we do that. So I'm meeting with some of the stakeholders this week about that.
You were one of the first, if not the first, members of the House saying no August recess unless we pass.
I think you and I talked about that together.
What do you make of the majority leader's comments earlier?
You know, we applaud it, and yet here it is. It's only part of the story. We need to make sure that our leadership on the House side follows suit, and then we have decisive actions. You know, what the American people are afraid of, and certainly your viewers, they just want something to get done. So adding 2 weeks, as long as we get things done, would be important.
So this reconciliation process, I want to talk about the latest reports on what's actually in the bill. A 3.8% tax on net investment income, a 0.9% payroll tax on high-income households. Can you back any type of health care legislation that includes not repealing those taxes?
Well, you know that the House Freedom Caucus took an official position to repeal all the taxes. Not only did we take an official position, we voted for that.
Is it a non-starter?
In the Senate, I don't know that it's a non-starter. So let me just say this. I try not to answer anything until I see all of it coming together. And so as they look at this, it really depends on how it fits into the broader context of what we're going to do on repeal and replacement. That being said, we've got tax reform that's coming on the backside of that. So it may be a small term if we agree to it. Then do we address it in the next reconciliation as well?
Let's take a step beyond the August recess and talk about the debt limit.
Yeah.
Can the House Freedom Caucus get on board to raise the debt limit? Or does it have to include mandatory spending cuts? And where do you see those cuts coming from?
Well, we've identified over $250 billion in cuts to mandatory spending that could be used to offset that. So that's one of our plans. But yet we also know that you don't mess with the full faith and credit of the United States. And so in doing that, we're putting out 3 different proposals. One would be to actually have it there and increase it by $1.5 trillion is the number we have in there. You know, whether it's 1.5, 1.6, 1.7. 7, is just trying to make sure that we have enough room to give the market some stability so they're not worried about any potential debt limit crisis. That being said, we've got what some were saying is close to a clean repeal. I mean, a clean debt ceiling increase, in that where we are is just saying let's put some structural reforms so that we don't ever have this question of defaulting on our debt ever again, and put that in. If they were to put that in, we could vote, or the majority of our Freedom Caucus could vote for that.
Congressman Mark Meadows, chairman of the House Freedom Caucus, any August recess vacation plans, or are you going to wait?
Actually, we had plans that I canceled today in anticipation of that. That second week in August. I made the call and said it's off.
You and a lot of other people, including reporters, my friend.
Yeah.
All right.